Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Trumpor with your nightly review for Wednesday, March 6th. It's about 4:02 p.m. Eastern Time. Hit another high, on the Dow today. Dow finished up 42 to 14,296. But the S&P continues to lag. That's its all-time high, 1565. It closed today up fractionally, 1541. NASDAQ was down 1 point. Google shares fell $7. And Apple $5.50. Tokyo is up 2.1%. 11,932. Remember, the economics minister said it should be 13,000 by April 1st. China was up 0.9%. London and Paris were down. Frankfurt up. Gold closed at 1582. Oil 90.42. 10-year Treasury 1.94%. And it being Wednesday, that's the release of the bull-bear readings. Bulls are down to 44.2. They were 54.7 4 weeks ago, but the bear reading is unchanged over 4 weeks at 21.1. Remember, that's a contrarian indicator. Hope you don't hear the wind in the background. We're about to get slammed in the next hour or so. Heavy rain turning to heavy snow. Factory orders in the U.S. fell 2% in January, the most in 5 months. Though in line with expectations, and ex-transportation, ex-military orders, the figure was actually up, ex-transportation. Friday's employment report is going to be very big. In Europe, Euro area exports fell in the fourth quarter for the first time in more than 3 years. A Bloomberg News survey of economists has the 17-nation Eurozone contracting for a fourth straight quarter, the first 3 months of this year. The European Commission sees the economy shrinking 0.3% for all of 2013. The European Central Bank meets tomorrow but is expected to keep its benchmark interest rate at 0.75%. Remember, the new Italian Parliament doesn't convene until March 15, but Pierluigi Bersani said in Rome today that he pledged to reverse the country's harsh budget, saying, quote, "The vicious link between austerity and recession puts representative democracy at risk and renders it ungovernable." So he's reversing his backing for Prime Minister Mario Monti's budget policy in order to try and gain Beppe Grillo's supporters. Thus, Bersani's reversal leaves only Monti and his small centrist coalition backing the EU's favored austerity program. So Monti is now calling for new elections. Brussels and the Germans are not real happy. Australia's economy expanded at its fastest pace in 5 years in 2012, up 3.6%, best since 2007's 4.7. Very impressive. But the numbers are skewed by an unidentified large transfer from private industry to state government, which artificially boosted public consumption, so I'm very confused. Separately, HSBC's monthly Purchasing Managers Index for the economies of 16 leading emerging markets, including Brazil, China, India, and Russia, came in at 52.3 in February, which is down from 53.8 in January, and the lowest since August. But at least it's still above the 50 level, dividing line between growth and contraction. President Obama, in a big shift of strategy, is having dinner tonight with about a dozen Republican senators at the Jefferson Hotel, a few blocks from the White House. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina is among them. He said, "I think there's a lot to talk about. There have been some problems, but we're all adults and you just have to put the country ahead of party and you'll be fine. When he reaches out, we need to reach back." Others in attendance that I care about are Senators Tom Coburn, Ron Johnson, Bob Corker, and John McCain. Obama also plans to have lunch at the Capitol with Senate Republicans on March 14, lunch with Senate Democrats March 12, and with House Republicans at a yet-to-be-determined time next week. So next week is a crucial one. Much more to follow, it would seem. Hopefully real movement on the budget front and the continuing resolution deadline of March 27, plus you have another debt ceiling deadline in April. I do just have to mention, on Monday I was talking about the sequester and meat inspectors and all of the furloughs that will go out. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack said at a House Agriculture Committee hearing, "We will do everything we can to minimize the disruption. We are looking at a several-month period before furloughs can be implemented." And there's a perfect example of how the sequester pain, if any, in certain departments, it's going to take a while for it to filter through. Venezuela, socialist Hugo Chavez died shortly after I posted yesterday. After his 2-year-long battle with cancer, he hadn't been seen or heard since December 11th. He was just 58. He ruled Venezuela for 14 years, beginning in 1998, and ran his country into the ground. He might have championed the poor, but he didn't help them in the long run. He held them down. Chavez had easily won re-election to a 6-year term last October, and his death is devastating to the millions who did receive subsidized food and free health clinics. Meanwhile, Chavez wasted his humongous oil assets, first or second largest in the world, depending on what you read. Under the Constitution, a vote is supposed to be held within 30 days, which would put Vice President Nicolas Maduro, now interim president, against Enrique Capriles, the centrist opposition leader who lost to Chavez in October. Maduro would win easily, however. A recent poll had him defeating Capriles 50-36. Maduro also being Chavez's hand-picked successor, though it's also possible there will be internal challenges to Maduro, including from the military. And regarding the oil, will whoever Venezuela's new leader is continue to lavish free oil on the likes of Cuba? Yes, there are still dangers of widespread violence. President Obama led a stream of mixed reactions from around the world to the demise of Chavez, saying that America reaffirms its support for the Venezuelan people. He indicated Obama that the U.S. was keen to begin a new era of constructive relations with Venezuela, saying, as Venezuela begins a new chapter in its history, the United States remains committed to policies that promote democratic principles, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. Ed Royce, Republican chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, said, Hugo Chavez was a tyrant who forced the people of Venezuela to live in fear. His death dents the alliance of anti-U.S. leftist leaders in South America. Good riddance to this dictator. Now, Chavez's body lies in state the next few days with a funeral on Friday. From an editorial in Bloomberg, there is no denying the impact of the charismatic ex-paratrooper, a plotter and survivor of coups who demolished Venezuela's political power structure, won 3 elections with wide support, and used the wealth from the world's largest oil reserves to advance his homebrewed ideology of Bolivarian socialism. How long that incoherent ideology will survive its creator is an open question. The editorial continued, seismic political upheaval in Venezuela, however, is neither imminent nor desirable. Not only are 20 out of 23 governorships in the hands of Chavez supporters, many of them former military officers, but over the course of his dozen years in power, he built up a 125,000 strong militia, of whom 30,000 could be considered armed combatants. Having them pour out into the streets is in nobody's best interest. Among those already sending representatives to Caracas for the funeral are leaders from Ecuador, Argentina, Brazil, Bolivia, Uruguay, Chile, Cuba, and Dominica. And Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad announced a day of mourning in Iran, describing him as a martyr. I have read already a ton of stories on Chavez's death. I have yet to see one mention the presence of Hezbollah and Iran's Republican Guard in the country. Turning to North Korea, a little review of the past few days on the Korean Peninsula. The Korea Times reported on Sunday that North Korea will probably carry out additional hostile acts aimed at probing the South Korean leadership's military resolve, citing an anonymous senior armed forces officer. This official said, quote, the North is expected to opt for a nuclear test, a missile launch, or a localized attack to see if the new government has established military capabilities and deterrence against it. Seoul is monitoring the site of the North's underground atomic blast. North Korean personnel are thought to have undertaken preparations for at least one more test. The official said they can explode another nuclear device at any time, and some activities have been detected around the other tunnel. So that was all Sunday. Then Tuesday, North Korea vowed to cancel the 1953 ceasefire that ended the Korean War, citing a U.S.-led push for punishing UN sanctions over its recent nuclear test. North Korea's People's Army Supreme Command warned of stronger additional countermeasures in a statement that came amid reports that Washington and Beijing have approved a draft of punishing sanctions for a UN Security Council resolution. Then on Wednesday, today, the South Korean military warned that if provoked by North Korea, it would strike the North's command leadership in a sharp escalation of the war of words. Of course, this warning comes the day after North Korean People's Army threatened to attack the United States and South Korea. Actually, the quote was, with lighter and smaller nukes. South Korean Major General Kim Young-hyun said, if North Korea attempts a provocation that threatens the lives and security of our people, our military will forcefully and decisively strike not only the origin of provocation and its supporting forces, but also its command leadership. We make it clear that we are all prepared. Kim Jong-un and his generals are definitely emboldened by their nuclear weapons. An analyst at the Institute for Peace and Unification Studies at Seoul National University told the New York Times, quote, we read their confidence in nuclear weapons behind their aggressive, more provocative rhetoric and actions recently. There's a higher possibility of North Korea attempting a provocation, something that would involve limited casualties but have all the impact that one expects from an armed provocation. My idea would be that the North could try and take out another South Korean vessel as they did in 2010, which killed about 45 sailors. The verbal sparring comes as the UN Security Council did move to expand the sanctions on North Korea. China's participation is significant. They did cooperate with the U.S., and a vote is expected tomorrow, Thursday. Finally, British Foreign Secretary William Hague said today that the UK is to provide armored vehicles and body armor to opposition forces in Syria. Hague told Parliament the Syrian people were in dire need of help and the UK could not look the other way in the face of the escalating humanitarian crisis and what he said were human rights violations by the government of President Bashar al-Assad. Well, that's all for today. I'll be back with you Thursday, but first, This Day in Baseball by David Nemec and Scott Flatow, F-L-A-T-O-W. March 6, Babe Ruth, 1922, signs a 3-year deal with the Yankees for $52,000 a year, more than triple what the next highest paid Yankee is getting. You might recall it was in 1921 that Babe Ruth probably had his best season. He scored 177 runs in 152 games. That's still a post-1900 record. 44 doubles, 16 triples, 59 home runs. That is still the record. 119 extra base hits for a season. 171 RBIs, and he hit 378. Take care.